My name is Chris Timmons, and I work with exhibits and programs at the library, and I'm delighted to welcome you here this afternoon. I understand there are a couple of major competing events in Westport today, so it's terrific to see all of you here. I'm also really pleased to welcome our two cartoonists here this afternoon to talk about the art of political cartooning and the challenges of covering the upcoming election. Scott is joining us. Mercifully, we finally got the connection right. He's joining us from Chicago via Skype. And Matt Davies is here from Wilton. And if you have not had a chance to see the exhibit across the hallway, which features Matt's work and also Scott's, along with a couple of other conservative cartoonists around the country, please stop by and take a look afterwards. Matt Davies is a Pulitzer Prize-winning editorial cartoonist for the Tribune Media Services and the Hearst newspaper group in Connecticut. He was born in London, and in 1983, at age 17, immigrated with his family to the U.S. and Westport, where he graduated from Staples High School. A Wilton resident, Matt began drawing editorial cartoons full-time in 1993, and now his work is syndicated widely, appearing frequently in such publications as the New York Times, Washington Post, LA Times, and USA Today, and his work has also been featured in Newsweek, Time, Mad Magazine, and on CNN, and this year he agreed to create original cartoons for Newsday. Next spring, his first children's book, Ben Rides On, which he both wrote and illustrated, will be published by Macmillan. Matt's numerous awards include a Pulitzer Prize in 2004, and in that same year he won the inaugural Herblock Prize. He's a 5-time winner of the Society of Professional Journalists Deadline Club Award, and in 2011 was a Pulitzer Prize finalist again. After serving as a staff cartoonist for several newspapers...
Carry on. First, please proceed.
Okay, if I can get to the second page, I will proceed here. Whoops, sorry.
It's so weird to hear that.
Okay, all right. As Matt is recovering here, I'll talk about Scott for a minute. After serving as a staff cartoonist for several newspapers, including the Arizona Republic, the Grand Rapids Press, and the Birmingham News, Scott became the editorial cartoonist for the Chicago Tribune in 2009, following the newspaper's 9-year search to replace its late cartoonist, Jeff McNelly. He now creates 5 editorial cartoons a week for the Tribune, and his work is syndicated in more than 185 newspapers. He also creates the daily, politically oriented comic strip Prickly City, which is syndicated internationally. He's a special commentator for WGN America TV, which reaches over 73 million homes, and he will be appearing on this station on election night to provide coverage along with Chicago Tribune columnists John Cass and Clarence Page. So gentlemen, the floor is yours.
Oh, thank you. I'll stay here now. Scott, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear. This is so cool. You know, I have to confess, we had a little bit of trouble at the beginning with Scott's feed over at the Chicago Tribune. He's actually in the Chicago Tribune newsroom right now, allegedly, or either that or he's in the Cayman Islands with his money. I have to confess, I thought for a minute we were going to have some trouble getting Scott, so I put an empty chair on the... I did. I'm sorry you can't see this, Scott. This must be really weird. And at some point I'm going to turn the camera so you can see the crowd here. We have a full house.
Great.
And we didn't even offer free beverages.
Do all it?
Yeah, usually when we do these things we say, you know, free wine and also a talk on cartooning, and people just show up. It's amazing. Without further ado, first of all, I wanted to thank Christine Timmons for doing this. You know, it was her idea initially. She came to me and said, I'd really like to show your editorial cartoons in the case out there. And I thought, yeah, sure, that's no problem. And then she said, you know, and also because we have some you know, we have I look for a polite way of saying this. There is a diverse political aspect to Westport, which I haven't really seen, but allegedly that's true. And so she asked me if I could include some friends who were conservative and who also happen to be cartoonists, not just conservative friends. And Scott is my #1 best friend in the business. I mean, the only time he ever makes me mad is when he does a really good cartoon, which is often. I mean, he does beautiful artwork. He also has the most awesome position for an editorial cartoonist to have, which is the job of editorial cartoonist for the Chicago Tribune. I mean, it's A-list stuff, really fantastic, and he's worked really hard to get there. So I'm really happy, and you know what? It's so nice to just see his face, although it's a little bit dark here. But yeah, it looks good on the screen here. But so I just wanted to sort of welcome you, Scott. Thank you for doing this. The beauty of Skype. Or you know what's interesting about this? I'm looking at it. I'm always looking for things to say that will make people laugh, which is my disease. The good thing about me being here is that you know for sure that I have pants on. Yeah, right? Made you
well, man, I don't, but I'd like to demonstrate with my little friend here exactly. That's gummy.
They're very serious.
Can we get the brighter here? Is that possible? Can we get? Okay, we can get it brighter.
Oh,
here.
lights up. Oh, good. See, because it's funny. You know, somebody turned on the lights here. There we go. Now you can see. There he is. See, handsome guy.
Turn him back.
He's very no. So
back down.
okay,
Turn him back down.
So it doesn't matter. So okay, it doesn't matter whether or not he's wearing pants. Okay. Okay, in all seriousness, and thank you all for coming out, because I know today is, I don't know what's happening over there in Chicago, Scott, but it's the most spectacular New England fall day. And the fact that you people have come in here to see us is truly remarkable. The only thing I can think of is that it's been a very contentious political season, for want of another term, and so, you know, Scott and I, we talk about this a lot, and Scott's conservative and I'm liberal, but whenever we talk, we always kind of, you know, we hash things out, and we always sort of meet in the middle and agree on things, and I thought to myself, you know, it's so really weird that it takes two political cartoonists to act like grown-ups and speak, you know, without fighting or being childish. So we reserve our childishness for the editorial page. So I really, you know, I really felt strongly about bringing Scott in to do this because I really wanted to, and Scott did too, just sort of show a little bit about how we both do, you know, both of our editorial personalities are very strong. You know, I mean, we are, I forget which colleague of ours said it, but if a political cartoon doesn't have a strong opinion, it's called a Hallmark greeting card. I forget who said it. Some drunk cartoonist said that in a bar, some bar somewhere. Could be any one of them. And it's true. So we have this this persona, and then when we sit down, you know, and when we're just being ourselves, we're actually fairly nice guys, and we have actually, you know, we're actually more reasonable than our cartoons would maybe let on. And so the purpose of this is really just to prove that. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly turn over the mic, or whatever it is you have there, to Scott, and I would like to show some cartoons. But before, you know what, I'm getting ahead of myself. Before that, I painstakingly created, there's some housekeeping we have to do here. You know, let me put this one. This will work? Okay. There's some housekeeping we have to do. What do I do? Hit enter here. There we go. Okay. Please switch off. Oh, you can read that. Can you read that, Scott? Yeah, you saw it already. Yeah. Okay. Okay. This is important. Okay. That's what happens when you unleash a PowerPoint and a cartoonist together. You just get stupid things. Okay, so Scott, I'm gonna move to your first cartoon, and if you have anything you want to say too, I'm sure you have plenty to say.
Okay, thanks.
So I'm going to turn it over to Scott. Ladies and gentlemen, my good friend Scott Stantis.
Thank you. I really do. I'm like Matt. Thank you so much for coming out on a beautiful day. It's beautiful here too. So thank you, and thank you for the library for having us and trying this and dealing with my trying technical lack of experience at technical things. Anyway, Matt talked briefly about our relationship, and oftentimes we're asked, how can you guys be friends? And my response has always been, for years I've known Matt now, that we don't share the same politics, but we share the same values. We want our kids to learn. We want them to walk on safe streets. We want clean air, clean water, and maybe even health care. And we want them to get these, when the discussion gets kind of spicy, is when we talk about how we get from here to there. And so Matt touched on something about our discussions. And years ago, we were talking about healthcare. And we went round and round like a liberal and conservative often do. And we said, let's try something. Let's do let's just email back and forth our thoughts and see if we can't meet in the middle. And if we can meet in the middle, then surely the people in Washington can. And over the course of about 2 or 3 months, honest to God, we came to a general understanding and an agreement and a compromise. And he came halfway, I came halfway on some things. And we actually came up with a plan that, looked like it could work. Now, what's funny about that is that's 2 cartoonists doing this. And the presumption was, of course, that, well, then Washington surely can do the same thing. No, sadly,
We're going to run for office. Co-president.
I'm going to show you some of my cartoons. Matt's going to show you some of his wonderful cartoons. What Matt doesn't say about how our friendship started is I knew Matt's work before I met him, as so many of us in the profession do. And I was blown away. He is, in my estimation, and many others, obviously, because you heard the list of awards, probably the best cartoonist working in America today. And so I walk up to him, and here's this guy. He looks like James Bond now. But when I met him, he was this scruffy, hippie, redheaded guy with redhead down to his shoulders. I'm not kidding. And I walk up to him, and I look like, well, this. I'm such a big fan! And yet he still talked to me regardless. So I have such high esteem for this guy, and it's such an honor to present with him. This is, I think, our 3rd or 4th time we've done something like this together, and it's always an honor and a privilege. So, with all that being said, we'll just go through the cartoons now. What sign should I give you? Should I go like that to change or something like that?
Okay, do you want to talk about this cartoon, or do you want to move on to
So obviously, this sort of establishes my politics. This was Wall Street. Is having, during the last 4 years, has performed fairly well, and so it's a mini bull market. And you have the president astride saying, forward to November so I can tax you into steak. Giddy up.
You want to do the next one?
This is going to be red state humor, folks. Sorry.
There's some hey, Scott, by the way, just so you know, there are some conservatives in the audience. Just so you know. Actual, real-life conservatives.
Are they documented to come into Connecticut? Because, we have rules about this.
We had them bust in, so. Do you want the next one?
Yes, please.
By the way, a conservative in Chicago seems kind of interesting.
You think? No, here's the thing. I think not taking bribes in Chicago is really the rarity.
We thought that's why you were late, was because you were giving a bribe.
I came here from Birmingham, Alabama, about a little over 3 years ago now. And besides the obvious differences, besides the parts numbing, freezing, falling off cold they have here, is they seem almost generally proud of the corruption. I think we may have a few Chicago cartoons in there, and we can talk about it later if you want. Matt often gets jealous because there's just this embarrassment of riches for us. The one thing Matt and I probably agree on is, especially the early incarnation and the ascension of Mitt Romney. as a fairly conservative Republican, although socially, this is where Matt and I probably agree more than anything, is on social issues. My feeling is that the government is not the best conduit for things to succeed, but the government is also the least qualified to tell me who to sleep with and who to fall in love with. So, and Mitt Romney agreed with that at some point. This cartoon was actually drawn in Tampa, where I covered the Republican convention. And it seemed like a clean slate at the time. And so there's Uncle Sam with the two candidates saying, okay, convince me. And up until the first debate, many of those of us who kind of wanted to support him had a lot of difficulty doing so. And so you're going to see some cartoons on those issues. Next one, please. This was Curiosity Lander, the great landing of the rover on Mars, and Uncle Sam saying, dare mighty things, and Mitt's walking around and saying, I told you I'm not releasing my taxes.
Next one.
Now this falls into what I just mentioned about social issues, where the president said his opinion has evolved on gay marriage, as has mine. And so North Carolina, which is of course a swing state, voted an anti-gay marriage amendment. And you've got a monkey there saying, ho, 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 to the president, where do you think you're evolving to? So wait, go back. Could you go back for a second? Because I just want to point something out here where...
Sorry, hang on. How'd you go back?
I think away all the jokes. Okay, if you look at the tail of the monkey, Matt, you are directly responsible for that tail. If you look at the art, if you're familiar with Matt's work, and if you're not, you will be in a few minutes, you look at one, you can't tell, I'm pointing at the tail, the crosshatching is very reminiscent of the way Matt, at least I told myself that, Matt might draw it. So, just throwing it out there, Matt.
That is ludicrously flattering, thank you. But it's...
Monkey tails, Matt Davies.
It's beautifully done. Despite the tail, the rest of it's beautifully drawn too. I love it. I love it. I love the way you draw it.
It's always fun to draw because you can make stuff up. It doesn't have to look like it. So apparently we evolved from some purse-lipped fish with legs.
I like the colors. That's good.
If we could see the next one, please.
Yes. Oh, hang on.
I want you to decide what this means.
Hold on.
I trust my readers.
Sometimes you just have those days where you just can't think of anything.
Draw a blank.
Okay, so it's, how do you, see, I'm on a PC. Here we go.
This happened during the Democratic Convention, which I also covered in Charlotte, and the national debt passed $16 trillion, and I love turning slogans and quotes from the candidates on themselves, so of course I have the president on top of the arrow saying, forward!
Do the next one? Okay.
One, please.
Okay. This is what I love. When I saw this one, I laughed out. This was great. I meant to tell you, this is one of your finest. That was really...
And it must be good because Mike Lukovich stole it. This was during the campaign, and here's how, to just confirm what I said earlier about how Republicans felt about Mitt Romney, is during the... How many front runners did we have in the course of this primary season? I've never seen this contentious a primary story arc, and certainly not that many players. Kane, Bachmann, Michelle Bachmann, Santorum. This guy, anybody but Mitt Romney, who was, going to be the front runner, but this was my illustration for that. So, next one, please. This is again the same thing. It says something like this could make a lesser fella question his inevitability. I love, and I know Matt loves doing this too, turning these behemoth beasts into almost like cats or dogs in terms of anatomy, in terms of animating them. I don't know. There's sometimes your art is really fun to look at, and Matt's is fun all the time. Mine once in a while. So next one, please.
But, I agree with you, Scott. One of the best things about when you get an idea that involves drawing some large animal, for a cartoonist, you're like, it's like go get a cup of coffee and just really relish the rest of the day. It's really a pleasant experience.
Well, Matt can tell you that the process, simply put, is, Jeff McNally put it this way, and I think he borrowed it from another columnist, but he said, is the process of doing an editorial cartoon is staring at a blank piece of paper until beads of blood appear on your forehead. And after that, if you get, like Matt said, if you get a rendering or a drawing that you salivate over, because really the best part of this job is the drawing. And to render something well and to render it accurately, the readers can understand what you're saying, but you really had fun drawing it. I think it makes for a great cartoon. This is the military cuts that the president proposed to the budget, and we can talk about this later too, because I kind of changed my mind a lot on this issue as well. But on cuts to the military budget at the time, he's saying "as you were," and you can see that the Army dude has a little gun with a little pop gun that says "cuts." So. If it takes that long to explain them, they're not any good. Next.
No, I thought this was actually good. That really effectively tells what your opinion. It shows the power of the image to just.
Was the gun made in the USA?
Was the gun made in the USA?
No. What is?
Can you hear the audience? They're guffawing a lot. You're not. Okay. Next one.
There really is a $70 billion component to the defense budget for green spending. So we must consider deep cuts to our $70 billion green defense budget, sir. And the president saying, but it was working so well. And the next one is a submarine with solar shield. And someone from there saying, strike the solar panels. This drawing turned out very well. If you notice, it's also the USS Inconvenient Truth.
See, I told you there were some conservatives in the audience. Oh.
This was my best cartoon coming to the convention. It comes into Tampa, says, let the humanizing commence. And it was so fun to research because I thought it was Robbie the Robot. Now, here's a brief history of cinema robots. Robbie the Robot was the one with the kind of bullet-shaped glass head. This is a different robot from Lost in Space. And it was really,
they're not the same?
Somehow, see? Let's see my thought was interesting at the time. But it was, again, coming into the convention, the humanizing of this guy and all this stuff. And I don't think the convention did that entirely, so going forward. So next slide, please. This is the only comment I've ever made or using Mitt Romney's Mormonism is he's knocking on the door as a missionary going knock, 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 and the GOP elephant finally going, okay, you win. Is this a good time?
That's funny. Next one.
So the next one, please. Again, Santorum, and he started to actually sound like Santorum, so why not the sweater vest?
I love the sweater vest. The
sweater vest was, seriously, here's the thing. You got the guy Santorum, who was running this fervently, stridently anti-gay agenda campaign, and yet he wore the sweater vest.
Mr. Rogers.
This always makes me suspicious when someone is that anti-gay. I don't know, are they? But he was a strange candidate, and so anyway, raise the sweater vest.
Okay.
And here's the president talking about the health care reform as he was telling us, as he was telling the country, and he's saying, it's not a tax, it's not a tax, it's not a tax, it's not a tax. Obamacare decision. Okay, it's a tax.
Next one.
Next one. This is again the Obama campaign saying that we're spending more than we're taking in, and of course the White House going, and.
You know what? I love the way you drew the Obama Biden. What do you call that? Shack. No, I love the rendering. It's great.
South side, in Chicago,
right.
There's no H in the South. It's the South Side, brownstone.
Yeah. I genuinely love the rendering, the shadow and the stuff on the side. Just a little artist appreciation talk there. Sorry.
Well, you know what's funny is if you want to talk about artist mistakes that turned out pretty well, is the word coming out of the White House is originally I just written it in cursive on my rough, right? Which is I do a rough sketch and I show it to my editor to approve or disapprove. And I just had to quickly hand wrote that out. I look at the rough and I think, you know what? That kind of works because it shows a juxtaposition. It uses type and the art of type to show two different mindsets and the nuances in what they're saying, especially when you're trying to do and You know, it's a little hard to do in a cartoon. I totally stumbled into this idea. So
it works, definitely. It's still wrong, but it works. Sorry, I couldn't resist. This one's
and again, the president's in one of his interviews, I think it was on Comedy Central or David Letterman, or I think he goes on Cartoon Network sometimes. I forget where he decides to talk. He said that you're going to have a little bump in the road in foreign policy, and of course, with Iran and they're getting closer and closer to having the nuclear bomb, him in his little golf cart, and you can see Israel in the background. He says, just another bump in the road.
I like the use of the symbol, you know, the Obama symbol on the golf cart, because when you have to label something and it gets that small, and you're like cursing because you're trying to write Obama because it's so small. Those are really good. In fact, the beauty of that is I still have
fights with editors from time to time because I hyphenate words.
Right.
Well, you shouldn't hyphenate it here. Right. Matt does something, and you'll see it in some of his cartoons, which is brilliant, is Matt doesn't care. And Matt also understands that his readers don't care. You know, if it says OBA-MA, people know that's Obama. They know what that is. So anyway, so thank you. Yeah, and thank God he's the first presidential candidate with a logo.
Right.
No,
well, other than
it's
W.
a pretty neat logo, the O with the sunrise and the blue sky and the red underneath. And Romney's tried to steal it with that lame R.
The toothpaste tube stuff. Doesn't his logo look like an Aquafresh logo?
It does. Yeah. It kind of does.
He does have very white teeth.
Go to the next one, please.
Okay. Okay, next
or
one.
hit something else.
This.
It's a PC, we know.
Yeah, hold on. There we go.
This is just rising gas prices. Hope, change, and yes, we can.
You're not going to explain this one to us?
The crowd seems to understand. Right, and the themes of the last campaign, the winning campaign, and the current occupant of the op. And there's the Obama logo again, the Obama Gas Mart. So, no, I think it's pretty good.
No, I was kidding. It's great.
Okay. I can never tell with you.
I know. Well, that's because you can't see my face. You can't see me smiling. Spacebar. There we go. Spacebar? Okay. So.
This was after the first debate. That's the president's hugging the front. Don't let me alone again!
Can I ask you a question about that? Hold on a second here. Okay.
Yes?
What? The conservatives are so down on Obama for using a teleprompter, as if he's the first president ever to use a teleprompter. And I swear I remember seeing them since I can remember.
I mean, Kennedy, well, not Kennedy, but I think Johnson, certainly Nixon. Yeah. But this is something that seems to be prevalent at every single one of his events. There's a hilarious picture of him at a grade school talking to grade school kids. There's a teleprompter.
I have a teleprompter too, by the way.
Because talking to the grade school kids had to be similar to talking to Congress.
Yeah, but you don't want to slip up. You don't want to say anything wrong.
And you know what? I think that's part and parcel of this president. And what sadly makes the 24-hour news cycle such a bad thing is that he is one of the great things I think about Barack Obama is that he is under control. He's cool, he's collected, but part of that persona is cool, collected, non-spontaneous, scripted, and staying strictly to the things you have to. That's where the Benghazi, story arc has gotten them in trouble because they follow this script. And I think even though he was made fun of, George W. Bush could stand at a podium and extemporaneously say what was on his mind, such as it was. So that's why the teleprompter has sort of become a symbol that sort of sticks, too. And I think it speaks to that control and lack of passion that, in some instances, may be needed. And I think he, obviously, without a teleprompter in the second debate, did quite well.
Okay, next one. Good, no, you're right, okay.
And this again is Mitt Romney's playing, and one saying solo's Twister, and the woman saying, and he's losing.
Was This is from the primary still?
This was still from the primary, although, you know, I mean, all of a sudden I love what President Clinton said about, well, I'm trying to think of the speech exactly. It was something like, "Moderate Mitt, where you been, boy? We missed you. Your wife was kind of hot." So, yeah, I mean, he's, what word can we use here, Matt? Facile. Athletic on his positions. So, and this, again, was one of those ones where you came up with the idea, and the drawing was so fun to draw, because I don't know how many people in the audience know that we only have 2 arms and legs.
That's good. He did a good job with that drawing too. That's tricky. But it does look like he's playing Twister too.
And he took his shoes off.
And he has his shoes.
I can't speak to how Matt draws. I'll hurry along through some other slides. But oftentimes, if I'm drawing something like this, I have to kind of move.
Right. Yeah. To imagine what it
facial
feels like.
expressions of someone's surprised. And then I'll draw, so because you feel the musculature in your body and your face to draw this thing. But if anyone's looking at you, it must be very strange. So anyway, so go, next one, please. This was just my case for re-election is clear. You have debt, the economy, free guns for bad guys, the Commerce Department leaks, which at the time seemed like an issue that never became one. Next, please.
Great drawing. And oh yeah.
This is an issue that is extremely important to me. In fact, Matt, I believe Matt has one on the same issue. The fact that this administration, and I would not care if they're Democrat or Republican, and Matt can vouch for me on this, on civil liberties, I am adamant. And when the president gives himself the right to assassinate Americans, no matter where they are, to usurp and go around the due process, I have serious problems with this. And in fact, my own paper, editorially, does not have problems with this. I have very serious problems with this, and we can talk about that later. So here is the president with Attorney General Eric Holder, and they're crashing through the Constitution with a drone saying, totally justified.
Yeah, I agree. It is a weird thing to have this, because it's only just a question of time before other entities get the same thing, and then all bets are off.
Well, here's the thing. For instance, and again, Matt can vouch for me during the Bush administration when they had Patriot Act and all that stuff, and I was adamantly and very forcefully opposed to these things. Now I lost my.
That's all right. Do you want to go to the next one?
Unworded wiretapping.
Oh, right.
How many of you remembered that to fight terrorism? Okay, well, it sounds reasonable, and the government wouldn't take advantage. It took 10 days. I'm not making this up. For thousands of abuses of that privilege by the FBI, and they had to stop it. This dovetails well into my opinion of how government, when you give them a power, they abuse it, almost always. And so something like what you're looking at right now with the president's ability to essentially blow people away, American citizens, without due process, I have a serious, serious issue with. So next slide, please. This one, I love this one. Donald Trump endorsed Mitt Romney. Donald Trump is saying, I'm happy that I don't care about poor people.
Every cartoonist in the world was really, really devastated to find that Donald Trump was not going to run again. Because drawing Donald Trump, I haven't drawn Trump as well, and he's just kind of you just draw hair. I mean, you just draw like, a giant hamster on top of a head. It doesn't even matter what the face looks like.
And what Matt does, I know again he has another drawing on Donald Trump in there, and he does a great caricature of his face. So when it comes up, do yourself a favor and really study Matt's work on the caricature, because it's priceless. So next one, please. Again, super PACs. I wish someone would come forward and tell me some construct of campaign finance reform that can work. Because here's the thing. Last month, actually a very small story, said that Mitt Romney had raised $114 million that month alone. And he was still outpaced by the president. We're looking at a campaign that by the time it's over, each candidate will have spent, not their campaigns, but the super PACs, in addition to the campaigns, over $1 billion each. That's a problem. And it corrodes and corrupts our system of government. So here you have the super PAC tearing up the Constitution. And someone's going to have to come up with something. Citizens United is a dumb decision. and we have to find some compromise on that. And hopefully we will. So, next one,
They
please.
could just rename it stimulus spending or something.
Defense spending. This is, of course, the national debt past 100%. It's 100.3% of GDP now in America, and you have Barack Obama saying, I can't see the bottom of it. What does something?
Zorbama the Greek.
Zorbama the Greek. It's just a fun drawing again. So, like Matt said, this was just fun to draw. The next one, please.
Oh, there we go.
I love this one following the first debate, and it's Mitt Romney being sworn in as president, and President Obama in the back saying, "That's what I should have said."
Yeah, that's good. That's good. I think the next one is one of mine. So Scott, stick around, listen, please. Or you can leave, go get a drink, whatever. But stick around because we're we're going to do a Q&A. We're going to do a Q&A in when I'm done waffling on, and so stick around for that because I'm sure that the audience members here have questions for you. So thank you, Scott. That was amazing. Like Scott, I did something on Mitt Romney, a couple on Mitt Romney, and this, we discussed this. In fact, I remember calling Scott one morning and saying, do you think the magic underwear is kind of off limits? And he's like, Jesus, you're a cartoonist. Of course not. And so I did the tax cuts for me plus Pentagon expansion equals balanced budget. That's magic in my book, so I couldn't resist just doing the magic underwear. And you Google, oh my God, when you Google image magic underwear, it's magic is what you get. But I did find it does kind of look like that. And here we have the guy over here, the Republican GOP, and he's saying you should be talking. Oh, I'm sorry, I just gave away the punchline. He's holding the Defend the Defense of Marriage Act, states' rights, not gay rights, no military same-sex marriage services, and then Obama's saying for gay marriage, and he's saying, well, you should be talking about jobs, and that was, it just I just felt like it was disingenuous for because Obama wasn't talking about gay marriage at the time, but it was, it was basically after he had said, that was when he had come, he had decided that all of a sudden he was for gay marriage, and it was in the face of all of this. He was basically his hand was forced. But anyway, let me move to the next one. Here's one that Scott could have drawn. There's President Obama on the moral high ground, and he's just saying to the predator, "Drone, fire at will." Which is, I think that's kind of that's the essence of it. It's the thing that in America, I don't think we should take so lightly. I grew up not here. I grew up in England, and when you live outside of America and you see what America represents, it's not something to be squandered lightly. And I think going around shooting people without due process. I mean, American citizens, absolutely. I don't think you should shoot anybody without due process. I mean, in a war situation, I guess it's different, but it's still, it's really bothersome. And almost all of the cartoonists that I know, certainly across the political spectrum, everybody has real problems with the Predator drone program. Okay.
Well, I could name a few cartoonists you don't.
Oh, really?
Oh, are you kidding?
Go ahead.
Mike Ramirez.
Ramirez.
Mike
right.
Lester.
Yeah.
Very ultra-conservative cartoonists. Yeah, they have no problem. We're a bunch of whiners for complaining about due process and the Constitution. Sit it, boys.
If anyone hears any sort of whistling sound, it's because somebody set the coordinates, and we're just trying to do it right. It's been a wonderful time. Okay, so GOP outreach, and this is ye 1800. This was just purely because I wanted to draw a creepy-looking, pilgrim-looking guy just reaching.
Now, may I ask a question, Matt? Why did you go with an 1800s when the Pilgrims were from the 1700s?
Oh, he's not Pilgrim. Sorry. He's just a very puritanical man. I didn't want to go back to the 1700s
yeah, I'm mixing metaphors here. I didn't want to go back to the 1700s because nobody had rights then. It was just...
What are you talking about? Moneyed white landowners?
No, you know, that's a really good point. Why did I draw? I had a really good reason for it, but anyway, it was a good. This one was done purely for the visual effect, and I don't know if I succeeded, but all right, let's move on. Speaking of visual effect, I did this little bit so you could see the bird part. You all know what that's about, so... oh, here's my sweater. Greg Santorum with his straitjacket, and he's obsessive with obsessively anti-gay written on it. And he's saying it's a sweater vest. And that was my contribution to the sweater vest discussion.
I just want to ask real quick.
Yeah.
This is purely a technical question, but like when you hyphenated Santorum there, it reads, did you get people asking who's Santorum?
You know, I did.
I'm dead serious. I get those calls regularly.
Yeah, no, I figured people, you know what, did I hyphenate? Yeah, did I hyphenate it right? I don't know. See, I don't have an editor sitting next to me anymore, so I just, although when I make mistakes, my editor at the Syndicate, they always call me. Right, so this one's the GOP policy guide, and this really is a genuine question for me. XYZ corporation is a person, and a gay man, that would be, is not a person. You know, as in, you know, the ability to marry, which is, you know, from a government perspective, you know, that's just a contract. Should have nothing to do with religious beliefs or anything like that. So, next one. Oh, here's my Donald Trump. You know, as Scott can attest, when someone as amazing as Donald Trump comes along to draw, you go, okay, what's the thing? You know, what's the signature thing? And it was the hair, obviously, because he has this real, quite spectacular thing going on with, I don't know, you can say wig, but I don't know. That's too simple. It's too complex to just call it a wig. And so I just thought, like, how can I capitalize on the ridiculousness of the hair? And so that was, the idea actually came as a result of me just trying to figure out a way to use his hair, not vice versa. So, oh, and all the Romneys, tax hike mitt, tax cut mitt, anti-gun mitt, health reform mitt, pro-gun mitt, and health unreform mitt, pro-choice mitt, pro-life mitt, against green energy mitt, for green energy, and then jobs. He's just got so many jobs, being all the Mitt Romneys of the world. You know, I mean, it's a little bit unfair, although except for the fact that it's true. And I'll also confess to, I didn't draw. I'm not anywhere near as industrious as Mitt Romney, and I did not draw. Well, I just drew one, and then I photoshopped. I was like, oh my god, I got like half an hour left, I'm just going to Photoshop this. But it actually worked out pretty well. I don't usually like to use Photoshop to cheat and lie and cut corners, but I did in this case. So. But it works, so and I got my cartoon in on deadline. This is the same issue that Scott addressed, the PAC, you know, the PAC Citizens United, you know, and I just had the Supreme Court sitting there and they're just whistling away, and they haven't pulled the lever to say that there's a fire. You know, they have the opportunity. Citizens United political. I mean, it's so beyond comprehension to me that the Citizens United decision hasn't absolutely just really messed with the political process. I mean, we're talking about, as Scott pointed out, you know, the microphone just died. Here, is this one more? Oh, I got another one here. This is the one. Yeah, you know, the political process is there's so much money in it, and it's not traceable to. I mean, there's these sort of shadow groups that
call themselves, you know, Americans for Goodness or something, you know, and they could be for, you know, police killing, you know, ammunition or something could be their agenda, but it's always, you know, so everything's sort of very, very carefully sort of given a name to sort of mislead. And anytime you're being misled and there's money involved, I don't think that's good for the political process. And I can't believe that the Supreme Court isn't addressing that. Okay, we don't need no. This is the guy with the sign shoved through. I'm not quite sure what happened. Must have fallen on it or something. But that we don't need no stinking Obamacare. Tea Party guy, and he's saying my insurance won't cover it, which is to me the essence of this whole argument is that the insurance companies just have too much power over our health, and they have no vested interest in our health. Back to the health reform thingy that we were talking about before. So I just did this for fun. You got your liberal, it's the scoreboard for Supreme Court. You got 2000 election, liberals 0, conservatives 1, campaign finance 0, conservatives 1, wetland protections, liberals 0, conservatives 1, equal pay, liberals 0, conservatives 1, liberals got corporate free speech 0, conservatives 1, and then health reform they won 1, and the liberal is ecstatic. Like, yes, I can't believe we won 1. The Equal Pay was the Lilly Ledbetter Act, which I think I have a cartoon that deals with a recent event involving a binder. But these rising fuel prices are all Obama's fault, and the woman is saying, "But this is Europe. It's a global oil market. Even if you pump oil from your backyard, you sell it into the marketplace and it ends up going into someone else, some other country. It gets refined here. I think we refine everything, but we don't. Anyway, and this one was out in the lobby, Romney's grey areas. This was another one where I got the idea because of his grey areas. I thought there's got to be some grey areas in Mitt Romney. And then I just learned tax position. I don't know what his grey areas are now, but tax position, healthcare position, immigration, environment, personal finances. Gun violence. And his Republican is saying a complex issue that new laws won't resolve. And voter fraud, over here, a runaway epidemic requiring immediate legislation. I don't know, that seems self-explanatory to me. How many I know voter fraud's been raging in the last 4 years. I think they found like 200 cases in the entire country. Is that true? Although I'm asking someone from Chicago, so that's probably...
We let the people in the first panel vote, so...
Other than in Chicago, okay.
You could actually make a case to say that, do you try to be prophylactic on an issue and try to prevent fraud before it happens? But I think, frankly, in a lot of instances, the intent, particularly of the Republican Party in Ohio, Pennsylvania, is pretty clear. Especially when the guy, I'm not saying this off the top of my head, the top Republican in Pennsylvania after it passed said, "Well, now we just secured the state for Romney." That tells you a little bit about the cynicism involved in this issue.
Yeah, I agree. I'm going to have to speed through these because we don't have that much more time and we need to ask some questions. So here we go. So are you better off than you were 4 years ago? I'm not telling you. And there's Obama. There's my one criticism of Obama. He didn't the empty chair. That was one that a lot of people used similar imagery. But I thought, and this was right before he did his debate, or a few weeks before he did the debate. And I think that first debate was really sort of showed this feeling of that he was this big. I mean, he was larger than life in 2008, and in 2012 he very much became, you know, more of a real person. This one just funny. GOP English only bill, and speak English, and then he's just going blah 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 blah, because that's what I hear when you start saying like English only. I just hear blah blah blah, which is, that's, I suppose blah 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 is English. But, political conventions, and you have the media greyhounds chasing the news. You know, it's just so set up. It's silly. This is one. Government assistance, Social Security, Medicare, mortgage interest deduction. I don't know how many people equate mortgage interest deduction with government assistance, but we were talking about that this morning. Healthcare, all that stuff is all. These are all deductions. And so the GOP voters are the GOP voter, and it's the ones who are saying freeloaders, moochers, and socialists, even though they're in that line. And I think it's part of the. I don't think everything's always about the other. And I don't think people generally analyze themselves in the context of federal budgets or local budgets, even. Yeah, okay. You know, all I have to do is look out. You know, we have a bunch of buzzard thingies that come to our house now, as I'm sure you all do, and they just do that. They sit on a branch, you know, like the old Snoopy. Remember Snoopy was a button. U.S. business now hiring, and the Republican elephants saying Obama operative. That was in response to something. Undecided voters. Undecided voters. Oh no, the decided voters are all on the cart, and they're being pulled by the one undecided voter who's just flipping a coin. Going, oh.
That's great.
A binder full of people who work for 77 cents on the dollar. They're not women, cheap labor. And you know, one of the things that Scott and I have talked about also at length is the you know, the competition that we now have on the web is the men. You know, the things that just go wildfire around the internet. And you know, during the debate where Mitt Romney said, you know, oh, I got a binder full of women, and before the debate was over, there was a Facebook page called "Women Binders with Women" or something, and it had like 50,000 people who were following it. Like, it was that quick, and so it really makes it difficult for us as cartoonists to sort of beat that. How do you beat it? Because first of all, you got to draw it. You get your idea. I mean, the idea will come, but then you got to sit down and sketch it out. So I mean, I came to this with, you know, maybe a few hours after that all happened, but you know, oftentimes these, you know, back in the day, you know, like 5 years ago, before the internet had as much power as it does, and for people to crowdsource, you know, humor, basically political humor, biting political humor. And they don't necessarily draw it. They'll take a photo and they'll Photoshop it. They'll, you know, do something pretty crude and put some words on it and put it out there, and it'll get shared. And you know, it used to be that we were as political cartoonists, we were the ones that would sort of sit there, and we were the only ones thinking like, well, how can I use the binder in an image? And now everyone seems to be thinking like, oh, I can use that. I can do it. I can put it on my Facebook page, and then I can create a Facebook. I can create a Twitter account. And so we really. It makes it so that we have to discard the first ideas because other people are just going to come up with them, and you have to sort of go a little deeper and come up with something that's hopefully a little bit has a little more sort of redeeming value and longevity as well. Okay, these are I threw in a couple of non-political year stuff just to sort of round this off to kind of bring us back to reality. But this one's not everyone that looks like me is a terrorist. This is the guy that went and shot up the Sikh temple, and I just couldn't resist flipping that around. Oh, and this is really lighthearted. This is just state of affairs. I know nobody here does that, only other people. And then, okay, and I'm going to end my cartoon presentation on, this is a cartoon that appeared today in the Hearst newspapers in Connecticut, and anybody who's opened their mailbox in the last month will hopefully recognize this. I've got the thing just saying, I think you're gullible, ill-informed, and easily distracted. Vote for me. Saying, finally, an honest campaign mail. They're just, the McMahon-Murphy thing is like crazy. Even I am, like, you guys are childish, you know, and that's going some. So with that, we have 14 seconds left for questions. You know, if anybody needs to leave, like, we won't make fun of you when you leave or anything, but you know, we're probably going to run over a little bit. So if we do, and anyone needs to leave, we won't be offended or anything like that. Okay. Right there, and with the hat.
Hey, Matt.
Yes.
Can someone turn the camera, because as beautiful
yes, I'm going to do it. Right, hold on.
Is there any way you can turn this around so I can see the audience?
Yeah.
Oh, bless your heart. Ah, there you are. There you guys. Well, could you pan it down? There. Hey, everyone. Hey, Matt. Nice, thank you.
So, can you see the camera? Oh yeah, you can see him, right, okay. Yeah, so, okay, in the hat over there.
Over the years, have either of you been contacted by any well-known people or celebrities, either for offering a compliment or because they were maybe insulted or offended by what you've done?
Scott, did you hear the question?
Yeah. No, I was going to just throw out and say, if there are any politicians or aspiring politicians out there, let me just say this. The best way you can tick Matt or I off is to call up and say, I loved the cartoon, can I have the original? There was a quick story, if I may, I know we're running out of time, but the governor, I was working in Memphis, Tennessee, and the governor of Tennessee was this big Ned Ray McWhirter. He looked like a Ned Ray. He was like 6'5", 350 pounds, huge guy. And so I would cartoon about him. Every time I would draw a cartoon, within a minute, his aide would call and say, the governor loved your cartoon, would you please, you know, could he have the original? I'd sign it and send it to him. Over the time, it really gets to you, because you're trying to be mean, you're trying to get a response. Finally, I did a cartoon of him. He had done something on bingo legislation, so I have him beating an old lady with her own cane. And his aide called up and said, can we have the governor loved it, can he have the original? And I just wrote on it, says, there's, dear Governor Ned Ray McWhirter, there's just no insulting you SOBs, is there? That's Scott Stantis. So that's my story, one of my stories.
I can't really top that, but the answer is that a lot of politicians do respond. Usually, as Scott points out, usually you get some kind of veiled kind of question about something, and then from an aide. Like the actual politician will never stoop so low as to actually contact a cartoonist and say, can I please?
Another quick story, when I was working in Birmingham rather, the mayor got very, very fat. And so I would draw him as like Jabba the Hutt, fat. And so, before he was running for re-election, he had actually lost like 80 pounds or something. So he comes to my office and he does this. I hear knocking, and I turn around and he's doing this. He goes, what's that? Without saying okay.
Did you stop drawing him like Jabba the Hutt?
Yes.
Yeah. See? It worked. It worked. Okay, next question from right over there. You.
Oh, I get a mic.
You get a mic. Yeah, now we need. Yeah.
It was very funny to watch what happened when the Sunday newspaper started saying, "Oh, wait a minute, people really like the funnies," and then George Will got all pissed off, saying they're not funnies at all. You know, what are you doing? And now they put Jon Stewart or Colbert on for their, for their biting insights at the end of the Sunday morning commentaries. I'm just wondering if you follow that little bit of the way of making your stuff more seen.
Oh, you mean to go? I mean, to try and get stuff out onto
on TV.
Well, you know that. I mean, over the years, and I know Scott also have had cartoons used or mentioned in the political talk shows, and to the degree that, I mean, I've actually had cartoons talked about and been. See, the thing is, you can talk about a cartoon or show a cartoon, but you have to, you have to attribute it, and oftentimes, someone on a Sunday morning talk show will talk about it and then say, and then they won't say who did it. And I've spoken to some of the people on the Sunday morning talk shows and asked them to please mention the cartoonist when they actually mention it, and so they do. I mean, but that's the close. I still haven't been invited. I haven't been invited on one of those shows to actually talk, which I think, honestly, I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I think we'd be pretty good, right? Like, me and Scott could go do go and be guests on a talk show. I think at least it would be not as boring as they tend to be.
Cool. I mean, Matt and I talked about this. Matt would be fantastic on one of those shows, but for some reason they get into their minds that columnists are better than, and smarter than, and better educated, or something more than an editorial cartoonist. And the times we are asked to be on, we're usually supposed to be like the dancing poodles, and make everybody laugh. And while we use humor, I think you can tell from this last hour you've been, exposed to Matt and I, we actually know what we're talking about.
Yeah. In a funny sort of way. We had a question in the back there.
Yeah. Speaking of Herblock, what influence, if any, did he have on either of you?
Scott, Herblock, was he an influence on you at all?
I'm sorry, was who?
Herblock. You know the guy from Washington Post?
Yeah. Which one? Yeah, I know.
He's
the one I haven't won? Yeah, I know.
Sorry.
Not that I'm bitter. Herb was amazing. Herb was, quintessential. Herb showed you how to be an American editorial cartoonist. You took a perspective and you voiced it forcefully. Herb was a huge influence. Paul Conrad from the Los Angeles Times was another. Neither politics I agreed with, but when I would get the Los Angeles Times when I lived in LA going to college, my hands would literally be shaking, opening up the LA Times, wondering what wonders Paul would come up with that day. And so, yes, Herb was a big influence. He's a big influence on a general 50 plus years of American editorial cartooning.
Yeah, I think Scott's right. Herb Block sort of created. I mean, it's hard to sort of to assign like, a certain cartoonist created a genre, or a way of doing things, because it's been an evolutionary process. Each cartoonist, even Scott and myself, when you're early on doing your thing, and it doesn't matter how great you are, eventually you sort of apprentice yourself to one or more cartoonists, because there's no formal education in what we do. There's no class you can take. And if there was, I'd avoid it like the plague. So we all look to someone like Herb Block, and you see what he did and his longevity. I mean, the guy, how many administrations did he draw? Like 6 or something?
Oh, more than that. I thought he started drawing for the AP
6, yeah,
with Coolidge as president. I'm not kidding.
Yeah, well, he was a teenager, right? He was.
Yeah. And
then he died. Literally like a month after. He just couldn't do it anymore, but he was well into his 90s, and he died he was doing W. He was doing cartoons about the Iraq War, and they were good. Like it wasn't like they were like, it was a sort of make work, like, oh, let's be nice to the old guy. He was doing really solid commentary. I mean, he was razor sharp right to the end. And and I mean, literally he was 93, 94, I think, when he died, and he had, let's see, he stopped drawing, and then like literally 3 weeks later he died. Like he just lived to do that, and his influences. I mean, he because he was working for the Washington Post, and he was right there for Watergate, and he did what was it? He was coined the phrase apparently McCarthyism, which in retrospect wasn't exactly difficult to come up with, but like he was on that stuff, back in that period. He was doing cartoons about it as sort of local issues for, he was the Washington Post's cartoonist, And I think his tenacity is something that we all kind of took with us, right? His you know, his bite. Like, he was not afraid to just say what he thought. He had a principle. And I think that that's infected a lot of what modern 21st century editorial cartooning is. Another question, yeah, right here in front.
Are you going to do one on Romnesia?
Romnesia. Scott, Romnesia?
Wait, well, I'm sorry, I didn't get that question.
Is either of us going to do a cartoon on Romnesia, which is the new meme? Everyone's talking about Romnesia now.
Well, I've done some on it. I mean, the debates, I thought the first debate, one of the few moments I thought the president had a good moment was when he went, they had the split screen going, right? And Romney is saying, well, I've never said that. I've never said I would cut taxes to the rich. I've never said I would have a $5 trillion deficit. And the look on the president's face was like, what?
Yeah.
What? It's like, wait, what? I mean, rather than like, well, yes, you did. I would have just gone, wait, what? So yeah, it's apparently you can say almost anything.
Yeah. Yeah, so to the question, yeah, we'll be doing plenty of stuff on Robbie. Over there.
Oh, thanks. What I find most fascinating today is that the audience laughed equally, both at you, Scott, and at Matt, and I think that's terrific. We can find the funny no matter what our politics are. And then the one thing I want to know is, did any aide to a politician ever offer to buy the cartoon? Because that's the person I'd vote for. Or do they all want it free?
Can I jump on this real quick? You know what? I finally worked out a system because just to make sure there's no conflict of interest, I asked the politician to make a donation to a charity I support. And
the Scott Stantis charity.
And but here's the funny part. As I say, I'll tell you what, you send a check to them and I'll just send you, the cartoon, right? Guess what never shows up? So I finally got to the point where I said, I will send you the cartoon when I have your check in my hand. But one thing that's interesting about, to talk about the give and take, it wasn't included here because we wanted to kind of focus on this election, but very briefly. When Justice Blackmun passed away, he's the one who wrote the Roe v. Wade decision. And I did a cartoon of him in front of the pearly gates, and there's millions of little babies in front of him, and one of them is asking, so, what trimester were you in? That's how you get your wife not to talk to you for 2 days. Because here's my marriage, and this explains, well, my friendship with Matt as well. In 1988, the Bush-Dukakis election, right? And it's the day of the election. My wife's water burst. We're having our second child, and she's in labor. And we're not talking about gentle little, cute little. We're talking full bore. Labor. She still insisted on stopping by the polling place on the way to the hospital so she could cancel my vote. Celebrated our 31st wedding anniversary this week, so she seems to follow me, much as Matt does.
She's just kept it going so that she could continue to cancel out his vote as long as it takes. Wait, what? And was there any other questions, or are we? Because we got time. We got time for one more. We can go 15 minutes late. What? Yep, in the back.
Does the candidate we laugh at the most lose?
Oh, did you hear that one, Scott? That's really difficult. I'd have to go away and think about that one, because who did we laugh at the most? I mean, no, because we were all like...
No, Matt, I would say, and especially in the 2004 election with W.
Yeah, W was just side-splitting. And,
well, when he wasn't...
Actually, no, he didn't win. No, he didn't win, that's right. The Supreme Court installed him. So yeah, I think that's your answer. Depends who's on your side in the Supreme Court.
So I think are you asking because of this current campaign and that Romney is the butt of more jokes than the president?
Yes.
It just seems in the debates now and in the past, everyone's looking for that line, like the Ronald Reagan line that turned the election against Mondale, the quip, the one who's the butt of the joke seems to come out on the.
Well, I'm not sure that election was going to go any other way anyway. I mean, but I think 1980 is more to the point when he looks at the president and goes, "Well, there you go again." That was a quintessential. And you're right. I mean, I hate the fact that we look at these debates as if who won, who lost, as if this is some kind of a sporting event. You know, who laid the best plan? Who was better articulated the vision of the future? And we're not looking at that. We're looking at who had the best quip. You know, Binders of Women, which was really, frankly, I mean, if I had a band, I'd rename it that.
You know what?
But it was just, you know, our political discourse, Matt touched on, I'm not going total squeak, but I'm going to go a little squeak here, about the 24-hour news cycle and the internet. You know, do you remember when Windows 95 came out and Bill Gates said, you know, well, apparently if you're a billionaire, you have to talk like Kermit the Frog? And you don't have to actually look at, you can only look at the news you want to look at. And I thought, and Matt and I would agree, I mean, we look at each other and went, that is such a bad idea. Because if you're not exposed to ideas you disagree with, you won't be challenged to know why you disagree with them. And if you don't see news in total, everything that's happening that makes up an issue, all of this desperate little parts, and I think we're distilling politics down to a very strange and frankly, potentially dangerous combination right now. I know Matt agrees, or...
Yeah, no, we were talking about this very subject just this morning about the fact that you can... you know, you're talking about these old elections where you're just looking for the zinger, the thing that just sort of nailed it and made people, I got to vote for that guy, or I'm not going to vote for that guy because of that one thing he said. And there's so much analysis and over-analysis, and people take sides, and they, you know, you can get your news now exclusively from, just as Scott was saying, from your perspective, and there's a point where, like, I look at it and I don't know where it's gonna go. I guess that's the part, you know, and it's weird to be a cartoonist, and you know, Scott and I both feel, you know, a lot of people say to us, like, you know, because we complain about this, right? So we complain about, like, the coarseness of the dialogue and the fact that, you know, everybody's sort of taking sides, and there are we going right along with it. I mean, we're contributing to the, you know, kicking someone while they're down kind of thing. And, you know, we used to be, I mean, back when, you know, Scott's talking about, you know, Carter versus Reagan, and, you know, if you were an editorial cartoonist back then, you worked for a newspaper, if you were really lucky, and your voice was, you were on a soapbox, and you got to say what you wanted to say, and people would read the paper the following day, and you had a real voice. And now, Scott and I are standing on our soapboxes, and we're surrounded by, our audience is standing on soapboxes. Everybody has the ability to say what they want. You know, you can have your Facebook page, you can link to things, you can send them out to people, you can, if you want to, you can create something and put it together. I mean, it's so, I mean, as I was saying before, like the Romney, the Binder Full of Women Facebook page, you know, within minutes you can do something that's, you know, equally as, I don't know if it's, I'm not sure of the power of it. It almost doesn't matter. It's just that we compete for that. You know, back when we were the, you know, we were the only badly behaved person in the news sphere. You know, like you had this sea of grey, you know, type, you know, and you'd open the newspaper, and as Scott said, like you would look forward to the cartoon, or if you didn't look forward to it, you certainly would read it, and it had the power of just being there, and that's going away. You know, that isn't. I mean, you know, Scott. I worked for a newspaper up until 2 years ago, and I don't work for one now. Scott's lucky enough to be with the Chicago Tribune, and they value what a cartoonist does, thankfully. But you know, even now, you know, like it's all about how their survival is. You know, everybody's worried about, you know, paying for a cartoonist, and how do you justify having a cartoonist? And it feels really, yeah, everything's changed. I mean, it's a very, and it goes to the essence of that question that you asked, which is, you know, we no longer, you know, we take little things, little zingers, those little things, and they become huge, massive, and everybody's talking about them, and they chew them up, like, you know, it's like piranha, you know, and until the next, you know, screw up and stupid thing that someone says. And it also contributes to the fact that politicians won't, I mean, they really will not tell the truth anymore when there's a microphone in front of them, because they're terrified of saying, I mean, you know, I mean, you can see both Obama and Romney are, you know, when they're in the debates, they're going, oh my God, I can't believe that I have to fill this time and speak, and something that I say can, like the binder thing or whatever it is, can make me look like a complete idiot like that in 2 seconds. And I think that's, you know, I mean, I'm not complaining about it, because it is what it is, but it just gives you an idea of what we're up against as people trying to continue to sort of say what we say, you know, visually. Although I still think cartoons do it best. But we have one more question, and then we should probably wrap this up, because
yeah, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Just everything you've said comes down to this. I have just finished reading Craig Unger's Boss Rove. Have you all, either one of you, ever taken him on? Because he is the most dangerous man we've got in the country.
Karl Rove?
Karl Rove.
Yeah, I've done cartoons about him, but back when he was, you know, the you know, W's. But I have a feeling that he's going to come up again. Yeah, because he's now in charge of the PAC, the super PAC, right? Crossroads of America, GPS, whatever it's called. Do you know what that is, Scott?
No, I know. Yeah, I mean, I don't know the name of it exactly, but I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, that's that's sort of to, you know, coming attractions, I think.
I don't know if he's the most dangerous guy in America. I think America's had guys like him for centuries, almost from the beginning of the inception of our union.
But not with super PACs behind him.
What's that?
Not with super PACs behind him with these billions of
Well,
dollars.
a lot of them had newspapers behind them, which, how quaint is this, Matt? They used to be powerful.
Yeah, the newspaper barons.
And so you would have, well, not even before the barons, you would have Thomas Jefferson, and the Democrat-Republicans would have their own newspaper, and they would use falsehoods and lies and innuendo, and it was scurrilous, and it was scandalous. So none of this stuff is new. It's what we tolerate. And you would think, do you remember when the internet first came into ascension and was going to make us smarter?
Well, that's not finished yet, you know.
So I'm not defending Karl Rove, but I'm not, you know, supporting him either. I'm saying that we've always had guys like that, and whether or not we listen to them. Now we have David Axelrod, who actually lives here in Chicago. I'm friends with him and his wife, believe it or not. Especially his wife, she works with an epilepsy foundation here. And, you know, terrific fellow. I mean, but if you talk to my Republican friends, oh my God, he's the Antichrist. Well, we're not. And as soon as we learn, at some point we're going to have to learn that, you know what, we're not. The Antichrist is the Antichrist. Hitler is Hitler. Bad guys are bad guys. Politicians are politicians. And we're going to have to grow up a little bit and learn that one thing is not the other. Where are politics now? I think we're in a very strange period. And if you look historically at our country, we're looking at the 1840s, 1850s, when you had weak candidates, weak presidency. And it led to a conclusion of the 1850s, which was, you know, bad. It was the Civil War. I think we have to wake up, become better citizens, better adults, and
so does
nurture
Congress.
our democracy better than we're doing now.
And so does Congress.
Yeah. So
I think Ben and I were just talking about, can you see President Obama sitting down with the leaders of Congress? And, you know, Boehner, they came close to, remember the Great Compromise and the Grand Compromise they were going to have? And Cantor, I mean, we have something like a Cantor, and again, a Republican, but who is going to say, no new taxes, period. Well, you know, Reagan raised taxes, what, 17 times, you know, and then you go, but then you have a Nancy Pelosi, who on the other side will not compromise on anything that they feel is in the wheelhouse of the liberal end of the Democratic Party. We're in a very bad position right now, and I hope we outgrow it. I'm confident, and I'm optimistic.
So no, you're right, and then compromise and all those dirty words. And I told you that you were going to see two cartoonists actually be more adult than the politicians they cover. And so with that, we do have to end it here. Scott, I just want to really thank you for doing this and joining us. Scott. Thank you for coming out to see us, because it's been really a lot of fun. Thank you. Until next time.